I am number 43949. 4 years of my life, that's who I became. Think about the worst thing you've ever done, a mistake you deeply regret, but there will be no forgiveness, and because of one bad decision, you will lose everything. Prepare yourself for an extremely harsh punishment, lacking any compassion. Get ready to surrender your life to a place that is debilitating and dehumanizing. Say goodbye to your family, your friends, your freedom. Toss your dignity in the dumpster and imagine for a period of 1 to up to 30 years, maybe even life, you will no longer have a voice or be called by your first name. You will become a number in a system that aims to break you down rather than build you up. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our criminal justice system. Hi, my name is Linda Argila. I'm a convicted felon. But like you, I'm also a mother, a sister, a daughter, a friend, a business owner, taxpayer, and so much more. Prison reform is a huge topic. I focus on women and children because that's what I know from firsthand experience. And I know that incarceration rips at the hearts of innocent children and families. I can tell you that prison is inhumane and not a form of rehabilitation, and why we need to stop locking up women, the fastest growing prison population in the United States of America. 80% of women behind bars are nonviolent offenders and mothers of children under age 18. As a result, almost 3 million kids in the United States have become the forgotten victims of parental incarceration. Research shows that 1 in every 56 women, 1 in every 56, will experience prison in her lifetime. And it can happen to anyone. Have you ever been on a blind date? I was 27, a Long Island girl from a middle-class family, successfully running my own business when I had mine. He was charming, fun, good-looking, totally swept me off my feet. So much so that after 7 weeks of our whirlwind romance, I found myself deeply in love and pregnant. 6 months later, we were blissfully planning for the birth of our child, when one morning at his home, there was a knock on the door. Before I knew what was happening, dozens of armed FBI agents stormed in, raiding the house, looking for the man of my dreams. As he fled the scene that morning, I was questioned while staring down the barrel of a loaded rifle. I lied to protect the man I loved, and I said he wasn't there. That's when I found out that the father of my unborn child was alleged to be one of the biggest marijuana smugglers in the country. Little did I know that decision in that split second would one day have a catastrophic impact on my life and the life of my family. The father of my daughter was never found, that morning. 4 years later, I'm a single mom working hard to provide for my 4-year-old daughter. When one morning, out of the blue, dozens of armed FBI agents stormed into my house, still looking for the father of my daughter. This time I was arrested, shackled, and hauled off to the Manhattan Correctional Facility, where I'd be detained unless I could meet the shockingly high bail requirements of $500,000. After a terrifying week, several family members were able to put up their homes as collateral for bail, and I was released wearing a house arrest ankle monitor. Over the next 6 years, my life completely fell apart. Interrogations, in and out of courts, phone taps, followed, harassed at my job. I was even handcuffed in front of other colleagues and dragged out. It wasn't until almost a decade after that original FBI raid that I was convicted of harboring a fugitive and sentenced to 1 year and a day in Danbury Federal Prison with a 3-year probation term to follow. Here comes the hardest part of all. How do you tell your 9-year-old child you have to leave, and why? She cried and begged me not to go. She was already fatherless, so losing her mother was even more traumatic. She fell behind at school. She was subjected to severe bullying. She was embarrassed. She was scared. I watched my little girl's life shatter because of my incarceration, and there was absolutely nothing I could do about it. From the moment I arrived to prison, I could sense the hopelessness and despair. Toiletries and feminine hygiene products were not easily available. Basic medical care wasn't available either. Women were forced to do hard physical labor all day long. My job was unloading pallets, lifting and moving heavy boxes, cleaning toilets used by 400 women without any gloves or cleaning supplies. When you're released from federal prison, it's mandatory you go to a halfway house. Now, the process is supposed to help inmates re-enter into society. The truth is, I feared for my life. It was a roach-infested, dilapidated apartment building, drug-ridden, in Lower Manhattan. The other inmates were predominantly men. The guards mistreated me, and there were nights I felt in danger of being raped. I was overjoyed to get out and reunite with my little girl. But I can tell you, that convicted felon label follows you everywhere. Finding a job? Nearly impossible, because no one wants to hire a felon. Let me give you some facts. The U.S. incarcerates the most people than any other country in the world. The U.S. spends the most money on correction services than any other country in the world, $182 billion, with taxpayers footing the bill. Yet, we have the highest recidivism rates on the planet. It just doesn't add up. By comparison, let's take a look at Norway. Norway's prisons are known for being the most humane prisons in the world. They focus on alternatives to incarceration and rehabilitation. As a result, guess what? Norway's prisons are known for having the lowest recidivism rates in the world. I know we are not going to solve this epidemic of mass incarceration overnight. But what I do know from my own extensive experience with the criminal justice system, there are practical solutions that will drastically reduce the numbers of women and mothers behind bars. How about we begin with changing the unreasonable sentencing guidelines and our one-size-fits-all policy? Beginning with nonviolent offenders that pose no threat to society. Rather than wreck lives, wouldn't it be amazing to have a justice system that invests in alternatives? Let's allow women to pay their debt to society by sentencing them to community-based service projects. I always like to say, time to help others versus time behind bars. Everybody wins. And most important, we are keeping families together, children with their mothers. Prison should always be a last option. But for the cases that may require a more serious penalty of prison, our justice system has an obligation to treat women behind bars with dignity and respect. And what does that look like? How about health care that addresses women's needs? Maybe guidelines that keep women close to their families and their children, forbidding the system to ship them to a prison facility so far away from home that visits become impossible. It's proven this is so damaging to the children, the innocent children left behind. And let's not forget that everyone's path to prison is different. How about we address the issues that may have led women to prison in the first place? Addiction, history of abuse, mental illness, poverty. So that when women are released from prison, they have a fair chance, an opportunity to successfully rejoin with their children, their families, and the community. We all make mistakes that have the potential to change how people see us. Rather than see a convicted felon, I ask you to see a mother, a sister, a daughter, a friend. Thank you. Thank you.